Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Gersha Phillips, costume designer for Star Trek Discovery, and I'm hanging with your boy Galaxy on Comic-Con Radio.
We have always looked to the stars to discover who we are. And hidden there was a message. A secret made of space and time. Visible only to those open enough to receive it.
Captain Christopher Pike requests permission to come aboard.
Well, Commander, this is awkward, but the best way to get into a cold stream is to jump right in. I'm here to take command of the Discovery under Regulation 19, Section C.
Your directive is only instituted when an imminent threat is detected.
Federation sensors picked up 7 red bursts, spread out across more than 30,000 light years. These mysterious signals are beyond anything we understand. Is it a greeting? A declaration of malice? Let's find out.
Aye, sir. To impact.
I am in total free fall.
Trust us. Discovery has you, right, ladies?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, dear.
This is the power of math, people.
We have someone in common.
My foster brother, Mr. Spock.
He took leave. It's as if he'd run into a question he couldn't answer.
Spock is linked to these signals, and he needs help. We're on a collision course with a pulsar.
Oh, what a relief. Thought we were all gonna die.
Wherever our mission takes us, we'll try to have a little fun along the way. Ruffle a few feathers.
I look forward to it.
Hit it. Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Linus, you okay? You look a little... Yes, I hear it's going around.
Bless you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Galaxy signing in for Comic-Con Radio. Coverage of pop culture events from around the globe. Amazing interviews with celebrities. Daily recaps and reviews of popular television. The Walking Dead. Z Nation. Van Helsing. DC Titans. Flash. The Legends of Tomorrow. Black Lightning. American Horror Story. Green Arrow. Movie reviews. Everything Comic-Con and fandom from around the globe. Comic-Con Radio. Get ready to enter our universe. Let's go.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is your boy Galaxy on another amazing episode of Comic-Con Radio. Today, we have a really cool gal. She's here on our line, on studio, ready to chat with us. She has been behind the scenes on so many amazing shows. She's actually the costume designer for one of our favorite shows, which is Star Trek Discovery, and so many other TV and film projects. Welcome, the great Gersha Phillips. Hi, Gersha. How are you? Welcome to Comic-Con Radio.
Hi, great to be here. Thank you.
We're so excited to have you on the show, and we're going to go ahead and chat with you and pick your great mind because you've been part of so many great movies and television shows.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a journey.
It's been a journey, huh? I want to get a little bit into who you are. So, were you raised in the United States? Are you from here?
I was actually born in London, England, and I live in Toronto, Canada now. My family immigrated to Canada in the 70s, and I live in Toronto now, but a British subject.
That's pretty cool. I brought that up because you have a little British accent. So I was like, let me see where she's from, because I know that ain't no California accent. So.
Not California, no. Wow, it's nice to pick that up. That's interesting.
There's little remnants here and there. When you speak certain words, I'm like, okay, that's British, maybe some other country. I don't know. Let's ask her. So how was it growing up in England, then going to Toronto? How was your childhood?
It was interesting, and England it was great. I enjoyed that part. And then we actually moved first to the Prairie province of Saskatchewan. So I lived in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and Lanigan, Saskatchewan. So those were interesting. You know, they were a farming community. Lanigan is a small farming community. So it was definitely quite a difference for us coming from London, you know, the big city of London, to a small prairie town in Saskatchewan. That was definitely an eye-opener. And also we moved in December, so there was just snow everywhere. That was also quite a difference for us coming from London, where back then there didn't used to be a lot of snow. I mean, now there's a lot of snow in London, but you know, as we're doing this new climate change is going on, but before there didn't used to be as much. So yeah, that was our journey. It was definitely an eye-opener and a challenge. You know, then I moved to Toronto. I was in fashion, actually. I was going to be a fashion designer. I came to Toronto to go to school here. Did not end up going to school. Started working directly for a designer, and that's the start of my journey.
That's a pretty cool journey. So in the beginning, when you were growing up, you had like the fashion designer bug. You wanted to be a fashion designer. Was it high-end fashion or just regular clothing?
Yeah. I started with, you know, regular, but I wanted to do. I was, you know, really enthralled with, you know, designers like, at that time it was Karl Lagerfeld, Terry Mugler, Claude Montana, Jean-Paul Gaultier. You know, those were the designs and the looks I was loving at the time. And I remember the first time I came to Toronto, I went to the Bay, which is a department store that's kind of like Saks, I guess, and went in and saw, you know, designer clothing pieces. You know, it was the first time seeing like a piece from Karl Lagerfeld or I don't remember who else was in there, but it was just mesmerizing to me. And I used to watch all the fashion shows on Fashion Television, which was the show that used to be a Canadian show called with Jeannie Becker I used to put on. And so that was my beginnings. I was definitely enthralled with high fashion, but also, you know, was starting on the lower end of what I could do. That's cool.
Well, you just named my 4 favorite fashion labels. When I wear clothes, I mix it up, and you named 4 things that I love. And back then, everybody, when they wore certain fashion items, it was to wear that one item. Now with the hype beast movement and all that stuff, everybody's like mixing things and doing different cool stuff.
Yeah.
It looks really good, but that must have been amazing to go into a department store and seeing all these fabulous designers in the clothing, and probably your mind looks at things so differently because you probably think on another level, and that's what got you on the path. So when you started in design, who did you start working for first? Because I know there's always a beginning.
Started working for a company called Low & Pope in Toronto here. Like when I was in Saskatchewan, I actually did my own label, and I did a little bit of a label with my boyfriend at the time. And so we put together some stuff, and we used to make clothes for breakdancers, actually, because his brother was a breakdancer, and they had a breakdancing group. So I made clothes for those guys, and like jumpsuits and things with nylon patches so they could spin and do all their breaking movements. And then I started doing really cool, like oversized T-shirts and things like that. This is the early 80s, so it's kind of, you know, that period, which we're now emulating again now, which in fashion, which is kind of hilarious to me. So I did my own then, and then I moved to Toronto. I worked for Jim Pope and Lana Lowen, and they did sort of like this really cool new retro kind of thing, which was really, you know, it was an interesting thing. We used to take like vintage patterns, but then remake them into new combinations of fabric and things like that. So that was fun, and I did their patterns for them for like 3 years. And then after that was when I started in film, actually, pretty much. I went from there to film. I went to the movie called Beaches, which I know everybody knows, and it has nothing to do with the actual movie, but I was sitting in the audience with my friends, and the title card costume designer came up, and I saw that, and I was like, oh my God. You know, like Oprah says, it was the light bulb moment. That came up, and I was like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. And I just left fashion sort of behind and looked into how to get into film. I started working with somebody that did weddings. In the weddings, I would do all the fabric. So I would drape aisles with fabric, drape huppahs, which is the Jewish canopy that people get married under. I would drape those with fabric, and then those guys would come along and decorate them with flowers. And I was at one of these weddings, and I met a boom operator, and I was like, oh, my God, I really want to get into film. And he started talking about, things he was doing, et cetera. And I was asking him, well, what do you suggest? How does somebody get into film? Because it was so elusive back then. Not a lot of people knew about it. So he told me to phone up the Canadian Norman Jewison Film Centre. And so I phoned them up, and luckily they were putting on a production, because they usually put on about 3 or 4 features a year. And they were putting on a production, and I phoned and talked to the costume designer that was doing it. And she went and met her, and she hired me, and that was the beginning of my career. I did a movie called House, it was, and I did it for free. And we did like about 2 weeks of prep, and then we shot for 4 full weeks, like 28 days. It was a really great experience. I met some great people there, and from there I went on and designed some short films. And I started doing the very beginning steps of costumes, where you were learning everything. I was like a costume assistant. And then by the end I was keying the floor. So it was kind of it was really great. I got to do a lot of everything because it was such a small production. So it was a really great way to learn. And then started designing on the side of always doing sets and assisting. I joined the union within a union here called NABET. Well, we still have it, called NABET. And then I was in that NABET for a while, then went on to IATSE. And that's sort of like the beginning.
It was the beginning of a long journey. And now you're an award-winning costume designer. And I have to tell you this. Your stuff is amazing. Let me tell you something. I love gowns, and I love Mary Chieffo's gowns for this second season of Star Trek. They're so beautiful, and I love the Section 31 outfits. They're so cool. I would wear that. You have to make me one of these days. I would wear it every day.
We've been talking about trying to put together a line of Section 31. I think it would be really awesome.
Hey, come here first. Tell us about it, and we'll put it out to all of our fans out there that's listening. And our fans would wear that stuff. This is the fans you want to go after.
Awesome.
They're the ones that'll be dressed out in Section 31 at the next Comic-Con event. They'll be doing that.
Yeah, that'll be really awesome going to the Star Trek convention in Las Vegas. We went last year, and it was amazing to see people in our costumes, walking around. There were lots of, I think the most popular one definitely was Mira Giorgio's costume. A couple Tillys, a couple Burnhams, Mira Burnhams, Mira Tillys. Really, it was humbling, inspiring, and just sort of a little otherworldly, even in that sense, just to see people walking around in the house. It was quite something. And the fans are so welcoming and wonderful and warm, They kept saying, welcome to family. It's such a welcoming and wonderful feeling. Went with my assistant and my supervisor as well came, so they experienced it as well with me. So that was also really great.
That's really amazing. For you doing the costumes for the Star Trek show, that really affected a lot of things because you gave the Klingons a new look, and it was a big deal last year. It was just so different.
No, it's fantastic. I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish. It's been really great.
Well, when they approached you to do the designs for the Star Trek costumes, was it a big thought process? Did it take you a while to really take it in, or were you gunning to do that? Was that something you wanted to do, or was it something when they gave to you and you were like, oh my God, this is great, I'm going to go so far out with this costumes?
Well, it's kind of it's an interesting story because when I was hired to assist another costume designer. But I do remember very well talking to my brothers about it, and I have 2 brothers that are huge Star Trek fans. And they both said, you have to do it. Because I was saying, I don't know if I want to do it because I'm only assisting. They said there would be some design. I wasn't assisting, I was co-designing kind of thing. And there'd be some design work involved, but I wasn't going to be the designer at the time. And then, lo and behold, everything shifted. We got different showrunners, and then Sideret left with Brian, and I came on, and they asked me if I wanted to do it full-time. So then I was I wasn't sure at the time because it still had a little bit of oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. And it wasn't necessarily because of the show was happening and whether, it was going to flourish and do well. So it was hard to tell at that point, and it was a little tumultuous. So I felt not sure. But as we started to go through it, and this was October, and I said I would stay and do the first episode because we were so deep in, and it was really, we were under the gun to get things ready in time, etc. So by the time we, shot the first episode, like I knew pretty much I was in. Do you know what I mean? I was fully 100% invested in it. It was great. And especially with the cast when Olatunde came on and working with everybody else, it was just really great. It's been an incredible journey. And, I feel I've grown so much as a costume designer, just having to do the things that we have been doing, things I'd never experienced before. And I definitely wanted to do sci-fi. There's certain things as a costume designer when you get into business, you sort of look at projects that you see and you go, oh my God, I would love to do that type of project or that type of project. So getting to do the show is really, I've been able to tick off quite a lot of boxes. We build like 90% of our show. So, and that journey itself is quite something. And working with new products, we're doing a lot of 3D printing and molding and just so many, and also surface printing, which is also another textile work that I've never done before. So it was just really been some, et cetera. It's just been incredible. I feel very, very lucky and very, very fortunate to have had this experience. Even if it wasn't totally intentional at the beginning, it feels like it's where I should be. So I feel that it all worked out the way it was supposed to, I should say,
That's really cool to hear. That's really cool to hear the journey. The journey makes the story. You come on for one thing, and then all of a sudden, you start creating all these amazing things, and you must get into some kind of a mindset. What do you do to prepare mentally for this?
Wow, good question. In our off time, we just went to Paris twice this year already. So the first time I went to be, we've been working with this designer called Iris Van Herpen. I mean, in terms of, we haven't used anything, we haven't collaborated per se on something, but we've used some of her pieces. And so they, and it's actually, I keep forgetting, it's Iris Van Herpen is how you say her name. She's a Dutch designer, phenomenal. They've invited us to 2 of their fashion shows now, or 3, and I've been to 2. So I just went to that fashion show, and I went to see another designer called Galpé. Also went to see Dior and Chanel shows. So all of those things, it's like anything that feeds you artistically. It comes from everything. Like I feel like, it's almost vampiristic, you know what I mean? You just take everything in that you see and everything just comes in and then comes back out that we're creating. So it's definitely a really all-encompassing process in terms of getting inspiration, I'd say. Book, film, art galleries, fashion shows, fashion, you name it. I'm obsessed with print now, and I'm always looking for textures. I should say more than print, because when we do other life forms, other aliens, you want to come up with something different that you haven't done before. And it's like, how can I take fabric and make it look like something else as opposed to what it would normally look like? So that's been an interesting journey too. Inspiration comes from everywhere.
Of course,
even nature.
All ideas come from everywhere, and you must get cool ideas from everywhere. So when you're doing costume design, you create everything, right? Your hands are in everything, right? The shoes and the clothing and the hats and everything. Wow.
No, not the phasers. Phasers are props.
Gotcha.
We work very closely, with our designer. We do a lot of stuff in tandem, like the spacesuits that we did for season 1, and the ones that are in episode 1 are a combo of the 2 of us, and the builders that we work with. We do a lot of collaborating between us. Once the prop has to be worn on the body or be part of the costume, then we have to do it together, and otherwise it just doesn't work.
You guys have to work together to make it work, right? You have to build that pants, that buckle could go on. You're a very creative person, and it comes from a history of things you've done, right? So Star Trek, you're amazing on it, breaking doors down, going sky high with it. A lot of people probably don't know that you were part of the Mortal Instruments and A Raisin in the Sun and My Big Fat Greek Wedding too. It's a big difference between a sci-fi show or movie and a regular, basic movie, like normal life movie. It must be 2 different mindsets.
Film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
Basically we start with the story. So it's always like whatever the script is that we're given is what we try to bring to life. So it is sort of, I feel like the approach is similar. It's just, that we do the same things. Always you read the script, you break it down, you decide what each person needs. Then you go about pulling those things together, whether it's, designing from something from scratch and knowing what that costume has to do, or whether you purchase it, you augment it, through whatever it needs to be done, or you just buy something and put it on an actor. But I feel like that actually doesn't happen very often, that you're so lucky that you just buy it and it goes right on the person and you leave it like that. There's always something to be done because, bodies are so different and varied that you always are required to do some form of augmentation to a costume. It's always a process.
That's pretty rad. And your process must be so good. So now that you're like so revved up in Star Trek, are you the lead costume designer or are you part of a big team?
Well, I am the lead. I'm the head of our...
Gersha, you're so lucky to be the lead costume designer for such an iconic show.
Yeah, it's a really great experience. I have an amazing team. And, as they always say, you're only as good as the team that you work with. So I have an amazing supervisor who keeps our crew in line and on time and on budget. There's about 25 to 30 full-timers, and then we swell up to 40, sometimes even 50 people, depending on, what episodes we're doing or how much we're building. So it's pretty amazing.
That's absolutely ultra cool to hear that you came on the show and you're the lead designer of this iconic television series that has hundreds of thousands of fans worldwide, and you went to your first Trekkie convention. How was it going to the convention? Like, did it boggle your mind, or you were like, yes, I'm home?
It was such a different experience. I did go to WonderCon last year, actually, before that. So that was my first little taste of it, I will say. But I don't think there were any people at WonderCon in our costumes. But when we went to the Star Trek convention, that's where we started to see people. And actually, some of the people had already been either reaching out to me via Instagram or Twitter and telling me, showing me their progress of their costumes and how they were going with it. So I'd already known the people, some of them had already been working on it. And but to see them live and to see, walking down the halls there and seeing all the people dressed in costumes and also all the other iterations of Star Trek. I mean, it was quite an amazing thing to see, and there's so many dedicated fans. It's quite something. And, the history of Star Trek and seeing all the different the actors that have played all the characters and the past were all there. It was really funny, too, because I went up to Michelle Nichols, because I'd worked with her on a movie with iTube called Are We There Yet? But she didn't remember me. Obviously, she's a little older now, and I'm sure so many people probably come up to her and talk to her. But it was just really cool to see her, too, and I think I got a little picture with her, so that was kind of really awesome. And then just seeing all the other people at the judge a fashion show, and then we also did a little presentation about our process of how we came up with the Mirror Universe show and tell of that, which was really cool, too. And then I can't believe it, but I actually signed books for people who wanted my autograph, so that's also something completely amazing and very, very different that I never ever thought I would be doing. So, and that's one of the things I will say. There's been a lot of really interesting firsts on this for me. So it's just been amazing. And also, like I said, the fans were so welcoming and generous, and coming up to me, they recognized me as we were in the hallways, and so when they start coming up to us there and saying, welcome to the family, and thanking us for, helping reignite the Star Trek flame, for lack of a better word. But yeah, it was really a fun experience. And some of my team came with me as well, so that was really great too. So they got to see it for themselves. Because it's kind of nice to share this whole experience too, because it is a shared experience, because, there are so many of us working on the show and giving so much of our time to it, that it's really nice that they get to come along too and experience it. So I really was happy about that.
That's really cool to hear. You have a 20-year career in this business, and you've designed for so many movies. Like, just saying these movies, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then you land to the sci-fi world, and the crowds are different. You're signing autographs, you're like geeking out over it, and it's exciting, and the fans are following you. I tell every person that I talk to on Comic-Con Radio, if you want to have a long-lasting career, get into our universe, I call it, our fandom, superhero, whatever you want to call it, our universe. And is this something that you want to keep doing? Is sci-fi and superhero movies a path that you really like now and you want to keep going on it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I definitely love it. It's amazing. Like I say, it's a level of creativity. It's world building. You are on a limb, and I definitely get a lot of the butterfly stomach some days before we're shooting something, some days before, because when I design something, I go through a process. Like, I work with an illustrator, and then I have to submit it to my producers and director. And, you have a little bit of are they going to like it? Do they think it's too crazy, too out there? And then they do like it, or, depending on their reactions are sometimes varied, but pretty much they're positive. So that's the first step of that. And then the next step is building it, getting it on the actor, making it look the way we want it to look. And, because it's such a lengthy process of building. But it's just, getting there and seeing it done, it's just amazing. And I feel like that, journey. There's similar journeys, period. I've done some really great, period projects as well. But the sci-fi world's very exciting, you know what I mean? It just has another sort of element to it. And I think also it's because you do get to stretch your mind further. It's like, how far can you stretch it? What can I come up with different? You know what I mean? So I think that's also really cool and sort of inciting, invigorating. I definitely feel like that's something that I'd love to continue. If more people will have me, I'll do it.
That's amazing to hear. I love to hear that. Here's the thing. You're designing all these cool costumes. You're making it happen. The fans love you. But most of all, you love it. And that's so important. Now, here's the thing. You said you've done some period pieces. And of course, you've done many amazing movies and TV shows. Is it easier designing for shows like Star Trek, or is it harder than a period piece because it has such a huge dynasty behind it, but yet the period pieces are real life? Which one do you think it's more challenging for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I still think that sci-fi is a little bit more daunting. I found doing Star Trek Discovery as well very daunting. I remember how scared I was when the first day we were airing and going to see what the fans thought of things. Because I know that we deviated from other iterations quite a bit. I was curious to see what the response would be. So I do feel like that's probably the scaredest I've ever been. I'm just thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? How's this going to go? How is it going to be received? There was definitely a lot of fear because I feel like when you're doing something that has been done before, or the person, or if you're recreating a costume for a particular, like I did Marilyn Monroe, so I did actually do the dress, like I did her happy birthday dress, and I did quite a few like pivotal moment dresses and looks for her, and that was quite challenging too. But there still was a certain amount of knowledge or sort of safety in the fact that I was recreating something that already existed, and it sort of all plays into a certain pattern that has to be there, whereas this is something that's a little different, I think sci-fi is. And also I feel like just because there's a little bit more of me in it, you know what I mean? Because it's my ideas, my design, so it feels a little bit more, you're laying your soul bare. It has a slightly different feeling to it.
Would you say that a piece of you is in every movie and TV show that you do? Because you just said it's a piece of you in it, you connect with it. But do you kind of put your whole, kind of your soul into it, and you could say, oh my God, that is me. I would do that. I would wear that if I was in that era. Do you think like that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty amazing, because if you think like that and then you're coming up with such cool designs and amazing things, that shows a lot about your creative process. And that shows how creative you are, because your creativity, especially with changing the Klingon look and then giving them such beautiful outfits, it's amazing. Now, here's another question I have, because I want to know this. I know in movies, the sets are all shabby. I've been on many TV show sets, many movie sets. I get invited all over the world. But when you're doing your costumes, do you cheapify them, or you like make them nice enough where they could wear it on the night on the town?
That's a good question, too. You know what? It's really dependent on the time that we have. Because I feel like we're under the gun, because TV has such a fast speed, even though we have an episode for 10 days, but still, we're doing couture clothing. Like ours is on that level, which usually that would take weeks and months to make, the things that we make in 10 days or less. Or, in some cases, even less than that, depending on who the actor is and what they're doing. Like we had scheduling fittings this year with Michelle was really challenging because of her career that she has aside from what we're doing. And even with other actors, like even Mary, having her come in, we'd get a week with her to produce those things. So we start with a scratch nothing, a muslin build on her in the beginning of that week, and then have a finished costume that she was on camera, full costume. And it was like rushing things to set at the final minute, like telling the ADs, please schedule this time of the day if you can, because we need a little bit more extra time. So, some things, yes, you definitely could wear it on the night of the town, but other things, they may not last. You know what I mean? Because we also build depending on the length of time we know that an actor is going to wear something. Because sometimes it carries them through episodes, so they have to wear it more times than not, and sometimes it's just the episode, or it's even just a scene. So you build accordingly and with the time we have. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so of course the ideal is the best looking costume and the best inside and out, but, that's definitely not always something that we can strive for. But we do our best.
That's so cool to hear because, I wanted to know, like, if you really hem them perfectly, you dress them, someone could sneak it off and wear it on a date and be like, hey, this is me, I'm Captain Pike. And, or they bring you an idea and they're like, can you make me a gown? Have people come up to you, like other actors, when they're on set, they're like, hey, I want you to design my wedding gown or my outfit for this event or stuff like that?
Yeah, we've done that. We did that here this time. Not on this season, but I have done it before, definitely. It's a hard thing because it's like if you're really busy, it's really hard to do something like that. But I helped one of my crew was getting married last year, and we went and picked out the wedding dress, and then she wanted to incorporate her tartan because her family's Scottish background, and she wanted to incorporate her family's tartan into her wedding dress. So we did a little bit of a journey like that. I of course wanted to Alexander McQueen it and go a little crazy like the. I don't know if he did one really great show where he incorporated all this tartan into his designs, which is really phenomenal. But I think it was, her budget and the scale of what she was doing was a little smaller. So we did a really cool waistband, and then she also incorporated into the guys, boutonnieres and things like that. So it was kind of cool.
You're so excited. I love talking with you. You're awesome. I love your tone. I love how you speak about everything.
Thank you.
I love your passion. You're just so cool, and God knows only what's going on up there in your mind because you probably have so many cool ideas. And you know what's going to happen, right? You're going to be hit up by so many cosplayers and Trekkies and people like that to build them custom outfits. Would you do that? Do you take side work, or no, you just strictly work on movies and TV shows?
I would for the right price. It's all dependent. You never know. It's like timing is everything.
We have a cool event that we do. We're actually going to be launching it at New York Fashion Week and in LA Fashion Week, and we would love to chat with you about it. But I'm not going to say it on air. We're going to keep it a little surprise, but you came at the right time. And, you're
awesome.
Have you noticed a big change in your social media? Have you noticed you've been getting messages more common, more frequent lately ever since you started working on Star Trek?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's really interesting, and it can be just a flat bit overwhelming because it's hard to answer everybody's questions, and I feel like it's my homework now. I've got to go and answer questions because I feel like if somebody takes the time to send an email or they're sharing what they're doing, in appreciation of our costumes, I feel like I need to say something and just and to comment on it. So I try to. So, but yeah, it's very interesting. As a costume designer, I always think of myself as behind the scenes. So it was really interesting to now become almost, to have a certain amount of notoriety is something I never really thought of as a costume designer. You sort of just think, you're just in the shadows kind of thing, which I was quite happy with. I'm a little bit of a shy or reserved person, so it's interesting to have the social media, to be recognized at these events and have people come up to me and then also asking for autographs and things like that. It's just a little bit, it's different. It's definitely not what I ever expected.
It's overwhelming,
I'm
huh?
working on, yeah, totally.
You're probably like, oh my God,
Totally.
Did they ask for my autograph? Am I signing this book? You're going to get more of that. You're going to get even more and more and more. Because you know why? Now that all these tens of thousands of fans have heard your voice and see how cool you are and humble and down to earth, they love you. Let me tell you one bit of advice. The fans run everything. It's all about them. You're a costume designer. You're the skin of the TV show. The actors are, the backbone of the TV show. The producers are this. There's a whole system. I was chatting with Rena Owens the other day, and she was telling me how the process is. And then she left out costume designer. And I think in a show like Star Trek, you are the meat and potato, because without that outfit, you ain't selling the story. You could act crazy and Klingonish as you want, but if you're a Klingon and you're wearing, cowboy jeans, it's not going to work. And now people get to know you on that level, and it must feel so good for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I say, it's interesting because I never thought of it on this, what it would be like. You want to be recognized for your work and appreciated for your work, but you don't really. As a costume designer, didn't really think, hey, I'm going to get tons of Instagram messages and people trying to reach out to me and stuff like that. I never ever really thought about all of that, but it's interesting and it's been great. I appreciate it. And I love the fact that people like what we've been doing, and I think that that's really great. And we'll try to continue doing great things, great costumes. Working with the actors that we're working with and the producers, it also makes the show really great because it's such a great group of people to be collaborating with. So it's been a great experience.
I know you're probably going to say it's a great question. What was the most challenging thing with the costumes of Star Trek?
Whew. That is a good question. There's so many levels of it. I think one thing is finding the right materials. One thing is understanding how long it takes to do something, to create something. Once you've found the right material, then you also have to get it made in the right color. So, some things like, for instance, our hero fabric, when we went to do the Enterprise jackets, that fabric takes 12 weeks for us to get it in those colors. And then we have to get the right zippers, and they come from Japan. They didn't come in time because they said it was going to be 12 weeks for that, but then it ended up being longer and longer, and then we had to paint our zippers for them to work. So, basically coming up with the product, the things we need to make our costumes is one level of challenge. The next is the execution and also allowing the actor to be able to do what they need to do in the costume. Because it's one thing to design a great dress for Mary to wear, but then she has to do a whole fight scene. Because when I originally was doing that costume, I thought she was going to change, but then they decided it was all going to be one day. So we had to make it so that she could fight in it as well. So that became another issue for us to work out. So that was all, and I feel like that happens quite frequently. And even sometimes after you've designed something and it's already established, then they decide that they're going to fight later and you have to make that work. So there's so many different obstacles like that. So I feel like that the biggest thing is the fabric, like the base product that we use is always a little challenging in what we're starting with and how we're starting with it. It's all a lot. And there's so many different layers to it. So it's hard to pull out one thing, ideally, but I feel like that is the 2 or 3 things that I would say.
Wow, that's pretty cool because it must feel so good that you come up with so amazing ideas and costumes, but the pressure must be on 24/7. Do you ever feel like, oh my God, I'm under so much pressure, but I got to make this happen because I love this?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're definitely under pressure. There's a lot of times we were like, I don't know, is this going to make it? Are we going to get this done in time? Like, we've definitely had those moments.
You laughed about that, really. You smirked. See, I know that, Gersha. I know that. But, the fans, they don't. So I wanted to get that little giggle and smile because I know how hard you guys work. And I know your job is so crazy. And not only you're dealing with the executive side, but also the actors got to look good. Oh, my God. You have so much pressure and so much on your shoulders. But you're doing so amazing. And you're doing so wonderful. And I really like you so much. You're such a cool person to chat with. And I know I want to stay here forever and chat with you. But I know you're a busy gal and you got to make the next season's costumes. If there's anything you could tell the fans out there all over the world that's listening right now, what would you tell them?
Wow. So this season's better than last season. Season 2 is awesome. And going towards the end of it is going to be amazing. It's going to be really great. It's a storyline and the relationship, especially between Sonequa, Burnham, and Spock, and that whole journey is pretty phenomenal. I think it's great, and I think people are going to love it. And there's some awesome costumes.
Are you going to be going to any Comic-Con events this summer?
I hope so. We haven't figured out anything definite yet, but I'm hoping that we'll do some stuff. Because I haven't been to Comic-Con yet.
Oh, they're going to love you.
It's awesome.
They better have you because they would be naked up there in those posters without you.
Well, there you go.
There'll be birthday suits galore.
That'd be cool. And cowboy pants, like you said.
And cowboy pants. Jeans. Did you like how I said that? I didn't even say jeans. I said cowboy pants. Is that Ogie Fogie?
I know, cowboy pants. I was like, that was
good. Well, I wanted to be a periodical, statement for that second. But, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. You're so cool. I would love to bring you back on the show. I know the weather's bad everywhere, but thank you for coming. Thank you for chatting. Thank you for telling us little cool tips and stuff about Star Trek. People love you. You're going to be hitting the stars. You're already out there in outer space, but you're going to be hitting the stars. And we can't wait to see your new projects. And what's your social media for all the fans out there?
It's my name, Gersha Phillips.
At Gersha Phillips.
Yeah.
And that's on Instagram. Do you have a Twitter?
Yeah, I do.
Same thing? I love it. And the picture on your Instagram, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, because they have some decoy sites now. That's how popular Gersha's getting, that they have decoy pages now. So Gersha's picture is a horizon. I just wanted to say that.
It is.
It is. I'm looking at it
picture,
right now, and I see all the cool things.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, Gersha, congratulations on your nomination for Star Trek. Congratulations on the movies, on your 2-decade career, on dressing every amazing show and movie that's out there. And we can't wait to see where you go from here. Like I said, you have an open ticket to our show. Anytime you want to come on, express yourself, say something, release a new outfit, some new idea, you are absolutely welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being on the show today. We had the amazing Gersha Phillips, amazing costume designer. You can call her high fashion sci-fi designer. She's getting up there and growing. Well, she has been for 20 years already, but go to her social media pages. It's at Gersha Phillips on Instagram and on Twitter. Say hi, DM her. If she can't get back to you, she's probably designing someone's costume, and do not send crazy pics because she will not open it. Guys, gals, everybody out there, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is your boy Galaxy with Gersha Phillips, and we're signing out from another amazing episode of Comic-Con Radio. Ready, Gersha? We're going to blow them kisses. 3, 2, 1. Mwah! A million kisses to everybody out there.
Mwah!
There you go. She just kissed you guys. Put it in your pocket. Save it for later. And if you see her somewhere at an event, please stop and say hi. Take a picture. Give her a big hug and say thank you so much for all your hard work, because if it wasn't for Gersha Phillips, none of these actors would have clothes on their body. I love you guys. See you later. Peace.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Galaxy signing out from another amazing episode of Comic-Con Radio. Tune in for your daily shows of Comic-Con Radio. Go to comiccon-radio.com. Reach us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Comic-Con Radio. You can call us toll-free right now. 800-976-0305. 800-976-0305. Comic-Con Radio, taking the world one listener at a time.